Hello and welcome to Game Changer. We are a weekly live stream focused on mindset, positivity, coaching, workplace engagement, neuroscience, and so much more. Today, I am here. My name is Daniel Connor. I'm the owner of Connor's Coaching, and Stuck People hire us to purposefully design a life that works for them, to find the best version of themselves that they can be. I'm a certified professional coach, an ICF member, and today I'm here live showing my most authentic self so that my future customers know what they're getting. I don't believe in editing myself, and I think that it's totally possible to edit myself into that perfect supermodel of the world that I want people in my, darker sides. I want people to see. And I don't need that. That's not my best self, and that's not what's going to get me. That's not what's going to get me business. I want to be the most authentic version of myself possible. Fit is so important with a coaching relationship. So today we're going to be talking about Truisms, which is a life hack that I like to share with my clients. And we're going to talk first about what a life hack does. We're going to talk about living life without a life hack, and then what adding those life hacks in does for us in terms of our positivity and how we purposefully can live our life to the best of our ability. I'm going to share how that truism works. Not going to go deep into the neuroscience behind it, but we're going to talk about some of the general human topics that make this truism a life hack worth learning and worth applying. And then I'm going to show you some examples of my life hacks. This is a 30-minute show. We are live. I would love to see your chats in the chat room. If I don't get respond immediately to your chat, sorry. I I am a one-man show here. But well, let's start with what a truism does. So a truism is a simple saying like early to bed, early to rise, make a man healthy, wealthy, and wise that you believe, that you live your life around, and that impacts your life purposefully because you've chosen to adopt that mindset. And generally speaking, these are around life lessons that we want to learn, that we want to incorporate into our lives. So, for example, in our first episode, I shared that I had some tremendous depression when I was in college, and that my mom gave me my very first truism. I don't know that she thought of it that way, but I've come to accept that it is a truism, and that is to do my laundry. When I'm not taking care of myself, it shows in how clean my house is, in how organized my desk is, in how productive I am in every aspect of my life. And so when I take care of those things, there's two things that happen. The first is that I gain momentum on the bigger things by taking care of those small tasks. We called it low-hanging fruit at a previous job of mine. We take care of that low-hanging fruit, and that can give us the momentum to take on those bigger tasks. The next thing that it does is it signals to myself that I matter and that this is an element that you can use to measure my own mental well-being. For this life hack to work, I have to believe doing my laundry is important. Without this life hack, um, the lesson of not taking care of myself just keeps coming back. I find my laundry piled up. I find my dishes piled up. I find that I just don't have a lot of self-esteem or that I'm not taking care of myself. Having this truism helps remind me on a daily basis the important steps that I need to take so that I don't have to learn that life lesson over again the hard way one more time. And there are so many life lessons out there that are worthy of creating truisms around. If you find the same situation, a toxic relationship, or the way that you're treated by a specific person, how you feel when you need to speak up in a meeting, but you just want to stay quiet and just get through the day. Creating truisms around these is a way of transforming your behavior from the inside out. Now, this gets into habit formation, but really this comes down to storytelling. We, as human beings, tell stories all the time, to make up why someone treated us the way they did. Or, um, gee, they were really quiet in that meeting. They must be mad at me. We create these kinds of stories on a negative level all the time to explain the world around us. It's a survival mechanic because it behooves us, if a tiger is running towards us, for us to assume that the tiger is going to kill us and eat us as dinner. That's a survival mechanic. We are codified to just expect the worst in all situations. So our brain is really good at coming up with these stories and then acting on them and believing them. Well, we can take advantage of this system by creating truisms, by creating habits around those truisms, and by making sure that we believe those truisms so that they can transform the life we live for the better and purposefully. Now, I am going to share with you the truisms that I've learned because life lessons that I have had to learn the hard way. Um, and then I'm going to share with you how I create new ones and then a strategy of how I think is the best way to adopt them moving forward. Now, every human being on earth is different and has their own story and has their own background. We are going to be talking a little bit about mental health today. And as a coach, I do deal with mental wellness, but I do not deal with overcoming trauma in the past. Those traumas from the past, those are best served by going to a qualified therapist that's gone through licensing and whatnot. Where coach is different is that we work on purposefully living the future rather than trying to figure out the past. So we design the future the way we want to. And these truisms are one of the most powerful tools to design the life that I want to live. We're going to start with my first truism, which is do your laundry. And already explained that this is when this came from a period of time in my life where I was in college and I wasn't taking care of myself and I got overwhelmed and I had all of these homework assignments and I was so stressed out and I just wanted a break and I didn't have any time for myself, and over and over and over again um, I just wasn't taking care of my laundry. I wasn't cleaning my room. I was a complete mess. I didn't know what my schedule looked like. I wasn't on top of my homework. And I called my mom and I said, I'm depressed. And she said, do your laundry. And she was right. What it did for me doing the laundry at that point was it created an easy win situation, which we talked about earlier. It created momentum for me to tackle the bigger things. Over the years, this life lesson, this depression, has come up multiple times. And we're not talking depression, clinical depression on a major level. We're talking about the kind of depression that naturally happens because we have ups and downs. It is 100% normal to have sad feelings at some point in your life. And to be able to handle those and to be able to find coping mechanisms that are not destructive is so important for us. Again, we're not talking about the traumatic or clinical form of depression that would be better served with a therapist. And I have gone to therapy. We support good mental well-being and mental health at Connors Coaching. And therapy is a vital part of your healthcare as a person. Um, so this is not a hack to avoid the therapist. This is a hack to supplement the therapist. um, and so for me, this life hack has just kind of come and gone throughout my life. And sure enough, whenever I get into a funk, whenever I get into that kind of depressed Ennui is another good word for this, where I just don't feel like doing anything. I sure enough can look at my laundry basket and see that there's at least one load there for me to do. And doing that load of laundry really helps. But doing it mindfully and on purpose, I think, is the game changer here, to use a pun. So the cleanliness of my environment is a direct reflection of the cleanliness of my mind. And taking care of that sends a signal to myself on multiple different levels that I matter, that I can do things, I am able to create action around things in my life. And those momentums really help me overcome depression. Now, every day I wake up and I make the bed, which is part of this doing your laundry. It's also part of some other truisms, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. I also do the dishes because I notice that the dishes have a much more dramatic impact on my mental health and well-being nowadays than they ever have in my life. I look in the kitchen, and if it's clean, I feel at ease and at peace. And if it is a disaster area, I also feel like a disaster and I don't feel like doing it. Maintaining a healthy, clean kitchen for me is very important for my mental health. And it's part of this do your laundry. It's an easy thing that I can do to get myself going. And I always feel better when I get it done. The next truism that I want to talk about um, is about self-love and it's about self-care. It's also about loving other people. For me, um, we all, well, if you're familiar with the language of love, the love languages, there are different ways that different people show love or tend to show love. I think of this as a habitual thing and not necessarily as a personality thing. Um, but the way I show love isn't necessarily the way I want to receive love. So when I show myself love, um, when I show myself that I matter and that I care about myself, I don't always get the picture. I'm not always listening. And so I've learned that on a conscious level, I have to do small acts of love for myself to remind myself that I matter and that I love myself. So my truism around this is love is how it's shown. Love is how it's shown. In other words, the way that you do things matters. So I mentioned that every day I wake up and I make my bed. I have a ritual around it, and it's part of my reflection on truisms. Every day I reflect on one or more of these truisms. I have habits around this. Doing the dishes is a habit. Um, Doing my laundry is a habit. Making my bed is a daily habit, and it's very important for me. When I make the bed, there's a conscious ritual that I perform where I move the sheets and I tell myself that this is because I love myself. And that sounds kind of silly, kind of pointless, right? Over the months, years now that I've been doing this, because I started doing this when I became disabled. I have a spinal disorder, um, and I felt really bad about myself. And there was very few things in my life that I had control over. This was one of them. And we were also selling our condo, so it was important for staging the house. So I had to make the bed every day. Um, Turning that into an act of self-love by doing this meditative ritual that I'm doing this because I love myself, I'm doing this because I love my spouse, I'm doing this because I love who I am and I want to see that pride reflected in my area. I thought was just the least I could do. I thought it was like doing my laundry until I walked past my bedroom and saw that I had a made bed, and I found myself smiling out of the blue for no reason, because I knew that that made bed represented my own love for myself. So over time, habits are formed. It takes about 30 days to form a habit by repeating the objective over and over again. By doing this, the bed became more than just a place I sleep. It became a symbol of my own self-care. It became a symbol of my own self-worth. Now, when I don't make the bed, and there are times when it goes by a couple hours, because doing the dishes is much more important to me these days. I often go do the dishes and then come back and make the bed. Um, Making the bed is such an important part of how I show love. And more so, it's also this truism lives on in other ways too, in other rituals, and how I talk to my spouse and how I show my spouse that I love them. Um, the next truism that I have is about my business, and it is be the shepherd and not the king. I am an only child, and it is very easy for me to get into a place where the world is all about me. Um, it's a it's a fear I have that I'll wake up one day and realize that I've been treating people poorly because I expect them to worship me like I'm a god. I don't want to be that person. And I am at my most authentic self when I am a leader of people, but I lead from behind. I don't lead from the front. So my truism for this area is be the shepherd and not the king. Because I don't need to be worshipped. I don't need a court of worshipers and admirers. And every once in a while, I find myself reacting to the world like social media posts, expecting people to respond to me, expecting people to love what I post. And that isn't a healthy way for me to live, and it's not the person I want to be. I'd much rather be an authentic, vulnerable person that shows other people how I live so that they can choose the best way to live their own life, rather than commanding, just protecting and being part of the flock. Um, for me, this is more about, well, for me, this is actually why Game Changer exists, because as a platform, this is my main form of marketing for my business. I don't go out and cold call or cold email people to get them to be customers. I would much rather have them resonate with me on a practical level, realize that there's something here that they want in their life, and to come seek me out and to work with me, not because I'm going to lead them to success, but because I'm going to help them create a safe place for them to learn to be successful on their own, and to be supportive of them, and to be a champion for them, and to cheer them on when they have successes. The next truism that I want to talk about, and I have a lot of truisms. I'm not even going to talk about all of them, but I easily came up with 10 truisms that I wanted to talk about today. Um, and I don't even know if that's how many I'm going to talk about because I went through and edited them. But this one is new. This is newer. Uh, Be the shepherd and not the king is also a newer truism for me. But this truism is to release your breath and invite success. This came from an Oprah Winfrey masterclass that she did when she first launched OWN, in which she described how she didn't get the role for The Color Purple at first, and that she sat in her back porch after getting rejected and realized that she had been holding all of this energy inside, wanting the role, wanting this breakthrough role and knowing it was meant for her, that she hadn't let go of it, any of it. And she just let go. She remembered looking, I remember her describing looking up at the stars and letting go of all of those emotions and all of those feelings. And almost immediately she got the call that she got the role. For me, this is a metaphysical belief that as long as I'm holding on to all of the energy, I'm never going to be blessed with the thing that I want. When I start anything new, when I feel really stressed out about something like going live for the first time on Game Changer, or even today, launching this episode, I go through a ritual of breathing in all of the effort that I remember putting into the activity that I'm doing. I breathe it in purposefully and hold it in my own imaginary temple inside my body. I hold it, I breathe it in, I fill myself with all of the effort, and then I let it go. And this is so important because I don't think that I would have room in my body for success or even recognize it when it shows up if I didn't do that, if I didn't make room. So this spiritual practice is this is again mental wellness, right? And I am being vulnerable today. You might think I am a freak. If you do, you're welcome to. I don't care. Um, so and that kind of fits with my next one. I mean that's a unnatural segue. I didn't even realize. But my next truism is that people learn from people. I learned this as a trainer. I was a trainer for over 15 years, and I remember I remember this guy came up. He was extremely obnoxious. It did not resonate or like him at all. But he showed some statistical data that he had been working on for a very long time, and it was very compelling. And it was that one, people learn from mistakes more than they learn from success. He showed that if you could engineer failure into your training program, that people learn from it better. But even more so, he showed that if you demonstrated making failure in front of other people as a person, and that you humbly accepted the fact that it was failure, that they were much more likely to learn from you. And that he had all of these stuff, like hundreds of thousands of people who had participated in his studies. And he was also very stuck on himself. And what this represents for me is authentism. I mentioned that Game Changer is my authentic way of marketing myself so that you can see me live and unedited and unscripted. And unscripted to an extent, because I do write a bullet point list so that I'm not just blathering at you for 30 minutes. um, and authentism for me is best presented with vulnerability. It's best presented by showing you that I had to learn the same lessons that you are probably having to learn yourself, because we're all human beings. There's not a single person that is going to watch this video that is a robot and that is perfect in their life. If you feel that that is an inaccurate statement, I'm not going to be the best coach for you. I can only coach human beings that have room to grow, to improve, and to be the best versions of themselves that they haven't even discovered yet. I think that people take life lessons so much better from other human beings. It's refreshing to see a person be vulnerable about their life, about what matters, about their passions, and about their flaws. Um, I have two more I want to go through, and then I want to give you the activity for creating your own truism. Um, so bear with me here. And the last two aren't necessarily as emotional as the ones I've mentioned so far. The first one of the last two, or the second to last one, um, perspective is only what I see, and this comes from conflict. There was a point in my last job where there was this just tremendous amount of stress that people were under, and there was a lot of interpersonal conflict. We were constantly reviewing each other's work through a system of peer review, and egos tended to get involved there to the point where we didn't listen to each other. We thought that we were better than the other person. We treated the people like we thought that we were better than them. And there was this one case where I wasn't being heard, they weren't being heard. And I realized that perspective is limited to what we can see in front of us. And sometimes we take for granted what we can see, everyone else can see. And that's not true. If I'm sitting in a chair facing someone who's sitting in a chair opposite me, I can see the wall behind them and they can't. Likewise, they can see the wall behind me and I can't. Without looking at my webcam, no, I know that there's a photo or a picture behind me, but if there was something wrong with that picture, if it was tilted or whatnot, without looking at the camera, I wouldn't know. You would, because you're looking at me and you can see so much more that I can't. So for me, this is about conflict. And usually when there's conflict, it's because someone can't see something the way that someone else can. And the final truism is so important for me, and it's why truisms work. Power is belief. What you believe in, what you practice, and how you do anything is how you do everything, because it's how the world around you works for you. If you believe in angels, angels exist, and you see evidence of it all the time. If you don't, they don't exist, and you won't see those evidence. We create stories to explain the world around us, and we create our own mental health. We create our own mental health by believing those stories to an extent. There are real traumatic events. Again, cannot emphasize this enough. If you have trauma that you need to overcome, find a qualified therapist to help you out. And if you need help doing that, reach out to me. I can be an ally. So the reason that truisms work is that they're stories. And they're stories that are easy to believe because they're life lessons that you had to learn. And when we're talking about this, we're talking specifically about simple statements that you use to reflect on the life lessons that life has thrown at you that you want to hold on to and you want to believe and you want to take forward with you. The way to create a truism is to recognize the patterns that are going on in your life. It's much easier to do if you have a coach helping you. Right here, I could help you. But journaling is another option. And if you start to notice patterns, if you notice patterns of the types of relationships that you get into, if you notice patterns about feeling depressed and having to do your laundry, or trying to figure out how to be your most authentic self with people, those are opportunities for you to create the story of the world that you want to be in 5, 10 months from now. And then here's the trick, and here's the activity. If you take your truisms and you go over the list and you reflect on them purposefully and mindfully, not as a second thought, but as an actual activity, sit down and say, people learn from people, and I believe this because. And you do that for 30 days. You've created a habit. And now it's part of your subconscious. And now it's so much easier for you to take that lesson with you forward. And life has a way of throwing those lessons back at us. And if we aren't prepared to pull those lessons out of our pocket, then we have to learn them the hard way again. And there is nothing more painful to me than that kind of efficiency, than having to backtrack and having to relearn the lesson that I just finished agonizing over. That's why I create these truisms. So I believe this is part of the setting process, and it's not setting and forgetting. You will have to bring these up again. When I get into a state of a mental funk, and it happened last week, I remember to do my laundry. I remember doing my laundry helps me get those small wins and get me some momentum for those bigger tasks that are overwhelming. And finally, I want to give you an invitation. I'm a coach. I'm a certified professional coach. I studied at IPAC. I believe in transforming people from the inside out. By fixing the foundation that you're building your house on, you can build a much better house purposefully in a way that you want. I help my clients get unstuck. I help them purposefully decide what their life is going to look like and then figure out the steps to build that life. If you would like to join me in that, I am offering 2 bonus sessions for the next 5 people who sign up for my coaching services through my website. There's information about that in the details for this video. Basically, just include the phrase Game Changer 3. That's the 3rd episode featuring me of Game Changer. And I will include 2 bonus sessions. Normally my packages are for 10 sessions. You'll get 12. And that is a pretty significant deal. My name is Daniel Connor, and I believe that each of us can be the best version of ourselves purposefully and mindfully, and this is just one hack in my toolkit to help us get there. If you'd like to learn more, you can find out more on my website at connorscoaching.com, and I look forward to seeing you at our next episode next week. We will be having a new guest, and he's going to talk about storytelling in marketing.